You lie down, and the earth lies with you, beneath your resting body, beneath the softness of your bed, beneath even the foundation of your home. There is movement, slow, ancient, and alive. The planet does not sleep, it exhales in geological time. You may feel still, but beneath you, the crust breathes like a giant animal wrapped in stone. This crust, the outermost shell, is thin compared to what lies deeper. It's cracked, like the surface of a dried lake, split into immense floating plates that drift ever so gently. These are the tectonic plates, carriers of continents, guardians of mountains, dancers in a ballet that takes centuries to step. You are lying on one of these great rafts. You may never feel it, but you are always traveling. Imagine the surface beneath you as a great cracked puzzle. Each piece slowly nudges its neighbor, sometimes whispering forward, sometimes grumbling with resistance. The plates meet, push, pull away, or slide past, and each gesture, no matter how slow, rewrites the planet's face. This slow choreography began long before there were maps or minds to name it. The continents you know, Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, Australia, Antarctica, are not fixed in place. They ride the plates, like ships on a molten sea. Millions of years ago, they were fused into a single supercontinent called Pangaea, a name that means all Earth. Slowly that landmass cracked and drifted apart, like dreams breaking into islands upon waking. The Earth beneath you is not solid in the way you might think. Dig deeper, and the crust gives way to the mantle, a warm, slow-churning layer of rock that behaves like liquid over time. This mantle flows, carries heat upward, and shifts the plates above it like dough rising under heat. You are lying on a crust that floats on fire, and fire moves. Molten rivers of magma glide beneath the plates, forming mid-ocean ridges where new crust is born, and trenches where old crust dives back down, melted and reborn in Earth's deep furnace. It is a cycle that is patient, deliberate, the breath of the planet itself. You lie still, and yet the Earth beneath you rises. Imperceptibly, it shifts. The Himalayas push higher into the sky as the Indian plate continues to collide with Eurasia, a slow-motion crash begun over 50 million years ago. Each inch of elevation there is a result of this ongoing, quiet impact. Mountains are the Earth's wrinkles, the stretch marks of ancient pressures frozen in stone, and where plates pull apart, valleys are born. The Great Rift Valley of Africa widens each year by mere centimeters. One day, eons from now, a new ocean may flow through its cracked spine. You might not hear it, but if you listen with the ear of thought, you can almost feel the groaning language of stones. Earthquakes are the sudden cries of built-up tension. The plates catch on each other, strain silently, and then release. In a blink, the land shudders, and the tremble speaks of deep-set forces. But tonight, there is no quake. There is only the lullaby of geologic motion. Lie back, feel the room quiet now. Your breath slows, your body grows heavy. Imagine the bedrock below, the strata layered like pages of time, sandstones that were once beaches, shales that were once mud at the bottom of ancient seas, limestones formed from crushed coral skeletons, each layer a fossil of forgotten sunlight, of long-vanished creatures, of eons pressed into stone. Beneath you lies memory. The Earth is old, and it remembers. Even the iron in your blood comes from the planet's bones, from the very core of Earth, where pressure and heat swirl in a solid, glowing heart of metal. That same iron once lay in rocks, in rivers, in stars. You are not just on Earth, you are of it. Your body listens. The stillness is not empty, it is filled with movement too slow to see. The tectonic ballet continues beneath your quiet feet, even now, with you as a passenger in its gentle flow. Imagine this, a continent inching forward the same speed as your fingernail grows. That's how quickly these massive plates shift. And yet, given time, they cross oceans, build mountain ranges, and remake worlds. Patience is written into the ground. You are held in place, and yet drifting. The room around you is anchored, and yet the Earth moves. Beneath your pillow, The planet whispers with heat and pressure. It murmurs secrets in the language of basalt and granite. It tells stories of volcanoes, where molten rock breaks free and reshapes the sky. It tells stories of subduction zones, where one plate dives beneath another, sliding into the dark with a sigh. It tells stories of transformation of rocks that melt, rise, cool, harden, crack and melt again, of crusts that break and heal, of earth as a living sculpture. And so you drift too. As your breath deepens and your eyes close, imagine the world as a great living body. You rest on its skin, feel its warmth beneath, and know that even in stillness, there is motion. The earth does not sleep. It turns slowly in its slumber, curled around its molten heart, dreaming in magma and mountain. And you a momentary witness, are rocked gently on its breathing crust. You float not only through space, but also through time, through motion too slow to feel, and too vast to deny. You are part of this deep rhythm, even as you close your eyes, even as you surrender to rest, even as the continents continue their patient ballet. You are lying still, but the story beneath you is not. It begins with fire, not the flicker of candlelight or the crackle of wood, but the deep, radiant burn of a newborn world Earth, still soft from its making, its surface glowing like a forge under an unseen hammer. Long ago, the surface of the planet was not a crust as we know it now. It was a seething ocean of molten rock, a crimson sea under an ink-black sky. There was no soil, no silence, no wind, only heat. An ocean of lava waved under the stars, stirred by the breath of a forming atmosphere and the memory of collisions that birthed the moon. And then, slowly, the heat began to retreat. The outermost layer cooled, cracking like sugar glass on hot stone. A shell formed dark, solid, fractured. Earth's skin stiffened, but the heat inside did not sleep. Beneath the surface, pressure grew. The cooled crust could not contain it. Like the back of a drying lake bed, the surface fractured into enormous slabs. These became the tectonic plates, vast, broken pieces that now carry continents like paper boats on a restless tide. Cracks turned into boundaries. The earth split itself into a drifting puzzle. You lie on one piece of that puzzle now. Let your breath follow the rhythm of movement that began in fire and never stopped. As you inhale, imagine the plates pushing gently apart beneath an ocean. As you exhale, feel them sliding quietly past one another, building tension that may one day tremble in release. These plates float, but not in water. They drift upon the asthenosphere, a layer of rock so hot and so pressurized that it behaves like a slow liquid. Solid rock, softened over time and heat. It flows in convective loops, carrying heat from the core upward, gently ferrying the plates on its surface, like leaves drifting on a pond of stone. Your dreams tonight ride these ancient currents. Each plate has a path, a journey shaped by forces far beneath. Some crash into each other, and mountains rise like folded blankets of stone. Some part ways, and the seafloor splits open to reveal new rock, born glowing in the dark. These movements are not violent in their rhythm. They are patient, subtle, like breath in a sleeping body. You may not feel it, but in the time it takes to dream, the earth has continued its slow-motion continents, shifting by a whisper's length, carrying forests and cities alike. You lie still, but the land beneath you carries a history written in cracks. Each scar, each boundary where plates meet tells a different tale. There are places on Earth where you can stand on two plates at once, feet straddling an ancient rift. In Iceland, the mid-Atlantic ridge rises above the waves, and there the Eurasian and North American plates pull away from each other. A quiet farewell that has lasted millions of years. In other places, plates collide like long-lost siblings, pressing into one another until stone folds like cloth. The Andes, the Himalayas mountain ranges birthed not in a moment but in endless silent insistence, and some boundaries slip past each other, side by side. The San Andreas Fault marks such a place, two plates brushing shoulders as they travel in opposite directions, a tension of passage that occasionally shakes the ground with its memory of pressure. These are the scars your dreams now drift upon. They are not wounds but ancient seams, the Earth's memory of how it was shaped, and each plate carries its own story. The Pacific Plate, the largest of all, sinks beneath its neighbors at the edges, pulling deep into the mantle where rock melts and returns to the cycle. Subduction, it's called, not a loss but a transformation. There is no stillness in stone, only different tempos of motion. The continents you know are travelers. Africa drifts slowly north, Australia sails northeast, the Atlantic Ocean, once narrow, grows wider with each passing century. Even now, new crust is forming along the ocean floor, a silent bloom of rock from Earth's hidden fires. And all of it, this immense dance of continents, traces back to those first cracks, when heat met cold and created the plates. Tonight you are riding the echoes of that moment. You may feel small in this story, but you are not separate from it. Your body contains calcium shaped by ancient seas. The air you breathe was once released by volcanoes fed by tectonic fire. Even your heartbeat, rhythmic, steady, echoes the deeper pulse of the planet's shifting skin. And so, as you drift towards sleep, know that you are not only dreaming of Earth, you are dreaming with it. The ground beneath you is not merely support. It is memory, it is journey, it is motion slowed to a near silence. Listen, beneath your bed, there are layers of rock pressed from time and pressure. Beneath those, there is warmth. Beneath the warmth, a churning tide of mantle. Beneath the mantle, a deeper heat still. You are cradled in geology, you are held in time. You ride ancient scars like a ship rides a sea, slow and steady toward the next horizon. You may not feel the movement, but it carries you all the same. The tectonic plates are not broken things, they are the language of change. The Earth does not resist being remade. It leans into it, slowly, beautifully, and you, resting now, are part of that patience. You breathe in, slow and deep, and the surface still holds you, but now we sink below the skin of continents, beneath the tectonic rafts of crust, lies something ancient and always moving. You pass through the cold stone layers and enter warmth, a place that moves without haste, a place that holds the memory of Earth's inner fire. This is the mantle. It does not glow like magma or roar like flame. It flows slowly, constantly, like honey warmed by the memory of a long-lost sun. It is not liquid. It is not solid. It is something in between, something born of pressure and time. A paradox in motion. You are suspended here, just above the core, drifting in this vast ocean of softened stone. The mantle wraps most of the Earth, nearly 85% of its volume, and yet it goes unnoticed. But it is here, in this deep, quiet sea, that the lullabies of motion are composed. You feel them now, convection currents. These are not like ocean waves or wind-stirred gusts. These currents move in wide, slow circles. Hot rock rises from the deeper mantle toward the crust, and as it cools, it begins to sink again. A loop, a breath, a gentle turning that never stops. This is how Earth breathes. Your body begins to melt into that rhythm, not in heat but in sensation, as if your blood is pulled by that same quiet tide. You are no longer just lying on the Earth, you are floating within it. These currents push the plates above, lifting, dragging, guiding ever so slowly. They carry continents without touch. They are invisible hands, brushing against the base of the world. Each swirl of movement takes millions of years to complete. But here, in this stillness, time stretches wide. You feel no hurry, no edge, only the great turning beneath. Somewhere in this mantle sea, magma rises at ridges on the ocean floor. It emerges through the crust, hardens into new rock, and joins the world above. Elsewhere, colder material sinks at subduction zones, pulled down by gravity and pressure into this glowing underworld. It is a cycle, rise and fall, heat and release, that has shaped the Earth since it first cooled. There is no beginning, there is no end. You are simply within it, part of the song. Imagine, if you placed your hand deep enough beneath the continents, you would feel this motion, not as a rush, but as a soft suggestion. a movement slow as dreams. You drift now through this deep thought of the planet. The rocks here are under pressure, more than you can imagine, but they still flow, inching forward with a grace born of eons. They curve like ink in water, folding into themselves. The minerals stretch, the heat hums, and in this place change is gentle. Somewhere, diamonds are forming, not in a sparkle of sudden beauty, but under crushing weight within this soft furnace. Graphite becoming gem, one atom at a time. Even beauty here is slow. This is a place of patience. The earth does not rush. The mantle turns in cycles that your lifetime cannot contain, but it never ceases. It is always singing to the crust above a lullaby of motion that lifts mountains, shapes oceans, and carries continents like notes in a melody too long for memory. You drift along that current now. Let your thoughts settle into the tempo. Let your bones remember they are born from this same stone, shaped by time, and carried upward by the same warm push that formed the ground beneath your feet. You are not above the earth. You are of it. The same minerals that flow in this mantle sea exist inside you in your teeth, your blood, your breath. Calcium, iron, silica, all of it born from the planet's ancient heart, lifted by its molten tides, cooled into mountain, soil, food, body. You are geology, dreaming of itself, and still, the currents turn. Somewhere far below, hotter rock is rising. It travels upward like a thought searching for a voice, and when it reaches the crust, it may one day break through in a volcano, in an ocean ridge, in a new island being born from fire. But not tonight. Tonight, it sways within you, the warmth, the rhythm, the quiet motion it cradles you. You are rocked by stone that flows like breath. You are held by a tide of molten thought. Your heart sinks to its tempo, slow, eternal. There is no need to rise, no need to reach, only to feel the world moving beneath your silence. And even now, the crust above listens to this ancient push drifting softly, pressed by heat and time. Everything you see, everything you walk upon, is moved by this force. The very idea of land is guided by warmth from below. You may never see it, but you feel it. Even now, let the weight of it anchor you gently. Let the heat of it soften your thoughts. Let yourself drift downward deeper still toward the next layer, where the currents give way to the core. What lies there is not movement. What lies there is pull. You are wrapped in stillness. But the earth does not rest. It moves with memory. Slow, powerful, deliberate. Tonight, your dreams climb higher. They lift gently into the sky, carried by stone that rose from the depths. You drift upward now, not with wings, but with mountains. Mountains that breathe, ever so slowly. They are born where continents meet, not in fire, but in force. Picture two great plates, the size of oceans, drifting toward each other over millions of years. When they finally touch, they do not shatter. They do not retreat. They fold, rise, and press into one another with quiet determination. This is how mountains are made, through gentle resistance stretched across deep time. Imagine the Indian plate, journeying northward like a silent ship, pushing into the belly of Asia. The impact does not come with noise. It comes with pressure, deep, steady pressure that has not stopped in 50 million years. Out of that embrace, the Himalayas were born, not in a single event, but in a patient rising. Each year the mountains still climb a little higher, lifted by the collision that continues beneath them. They are the world's youngest mountains, but their bones are ancient. You lie now in that cradle of uplift. Close your eyes, feel the weight of stone beneath you. Ancient seabeds turned skyward, shells and sediments, once part of an ocean floor, now sleep thousands of meters above the sea. In the Himalayas, you can find fossils where the air is thin, the earth remembers, and it carries those memories high. Let your breath slow, let the ridges rise around you like thoughts shaped by silence. Feel the long, slow press of time, the way mountains don't rise with violence, but with quiet insistence. Each ridge is a frozen wave in a sea of stone. Each peak is a whisper from the depths. The earth does not force, it persuades, and so the crust folds like fabric. its layers curling upward in tight pleats. Metamorphic rocks, once simple shale, limestone, sandstone, are pressed, heated and reborn. They become marble, schist, quartzite, stone transformed by patience. Each mineral tells a chapter. Each striation holds the rhythm of centuries. You are not just lying still, you are resting in a story that took millions of years to rise beneath you. And the pressure is not only below. Gravity pulls downward, even as tectonic force pushes upward. Between those opposing hands, mountains are sculpted, and with each snowfall, each freeze, each gust of wind, their peaks are slowly worn down even as they rise. There is balance in this, a breathing between build and release. It is the rhythm of uplift and erosion, of push and crumble, and still the mountains rise. The Himalayas are not alone in this quiet striving. The Alps rose when Africa met Europe. The Andes reach toward the clouds where the Pacific plate slips beneath South America. The Rockies grew from ancient collisions, now long quiet. Wherever plates meet, the earth does not break. It reaches. You may think of stone as rigid, as hard, but under time it flows. A mountain is not a monument. It is a movement, frozen, slow but alive. It grows even as it falls. It changes even as it endures. Let that comfort you now. Let yourself be held by something that grew not through speed but through devotion. Let each heartbeat echo the rhythm of tectonic lift. There is no need to rush. The earth never does. Feel the thinness of the air at altitude, not cold but quiet. Up here the world narrows, noise falls away, time stretches wider. Your thoughts slow, matching the pace of stone as it reaches for the moon. You are not just on a planet. You are part of a sculpture carved slowly, remade continually. You are the summit of stories that began when the continents first dared to meet. And each rock beneath your head is a lesson in patience. Somewhere high in the Himalayas, glaciers cradle the peaks like white veils. They move too slowly, carving valleys with the persistence of breath. Their melt feeds rivers that flow for thousands of miles, shaping plains, feeding forests, nurturing lives. Even here in the highest quiet, the mountain gives. It does not hoard what it has built. It melts, it erodes, it shares, and still it rises. Even your bones feel this now, the upward pull of slow transformation, not just of the planet, but of you. What part of you is becoming mountain? What part of you has been folded, pressed and made more beautiful by time? Perhaps all of you. You are a range in motion, a landscape unfolding. Let yourself rest like a boulder in twilight. Let the winds of erosion pass over you without fear. Let the climb become the lullaby. For when you dream tonight, you are not lying still. You are being lifted softly, slowly by the world's quietest hands. The earth whispers upward, and you rise. You lie still. The room breathes gently around you, but far beneath your pillow, a story begins, not with motion but with stillness stretched too tight. The earth holds its breath. Between the vast plates of the crust, friction gathers like a coiled thread. It is not loud, it is not hurried, it waits. Deep down at the fault lines where one plate grinds past another, tension grows in the quiet. A force invisible, a strain unspoken. You are resting above this slow tightening, a hush of stone preparing to speak. Earthquakes are not sudden, they are built patiently. Imagine two great slabs of rock pressed side by side. They want to move, to slide, to shift, but the edges are jagged, locked together. The plates continue to push, imperceptibly, day by day, but the rocks hold on. They refuse to give way. This pressure builds like a breath not yet exhaled. You float above it now, suspended in Earth's anticipation. The world seems still, but deep within, it hums with restrained energy, like the moment before thunder, like the second before a wave crests. And then, one day it releases. The locked rocks finally slip. With a sudden jolt, the crust lurches. That breath is exhaled, all at once, and the ground ripples. The energy stored for years, even centuries, escapes in a trembling wave. that is an earthquake. But not tonight. Tonight you hover just before the shift, just before the sigh. In this space, there is no shaking, only the deep awareness that the earth has tension in its bones, and that tension, like yours, seeks release. Close your eyes. Feel the fabric of the earth beneath you as something alive, not fragile, but not unbreakable. Strong yet stressed, at faults like the San Andreas or the Anatolian, the Pacific or the Himalayan frontal thrust, immense forces pass silently beneath the cities above. Whole continents lean into each other, and when the crust moves, the surface stirs, streets crack, water ripples in glass, trees shiver, buildings sway. But beneath all that, before all that, is the energy itself, seismic waves, born in a single slip, racing through stone like ripples in deep water. They travel in two forms, P waves, primary waves, quick and quiet, compressing the ground like a shudder, and S waves, secondary waves, slower, rolling side to side, swaying the land like wind through grass. Your ears may not hear them, but the ground does. Instruments pick up their whisper hours, days, sometimes even weeks before the larger quake arrives. The earth always speaks before it screams, and tonight, it only whispers. You are listening from the edge of this motion, floating before the fracture. Your body, made of minerals born in crust and core, remembers this rhythm, the pressure, the pause, the letting go. There is no need to fear it here. Because even earthquakes are part of the planet's story, not an error, but a correction. They remind the crust that it is not one piece, that it is moving, that the earth is alive. The energy released in a quake reshapes the land. Riverbeds shift, fault lines lengthen. Sometimes new mountains are nudged into being. Other times, ancient valleys deepen by inches. The violence you see in headlines is only one chapter. The real story is written in slow tension and slow healing, and you drifting now are learning to feel that rhythm without the jolt. You lie in the space before the hush that comes when two stones touch but have not yet moved. That space is sacred. It is the quiet knowing, the charged stillness. Even your heartbeat knows it. Tension, pause, release. Inhale, hold, exhale. The same cycle lives inside you. And just like the earth, sometimes your stillness trembles. Sometimes you store too much without letting go. Sometimes you crack quietly. But tonight you learn from the earth's anticipation how to hold pressure with softness, how to wait with calm, how to tremble, not in fear, but in readiness. You may not feel the microquakes, tiny slips deep underground that shift the story ever so slightly. They pass without notice, like thoughts moving through the soil, but they are reminders that change does not always shake the walls. Sometimes it whispers through the floor. Sometimes the release is a grace. Let yourself soften. Let the bed become the crust, gently flexing. Let the air around you carry the distant pulse of a world always adjusting, always returning to balance. You are not in danger here. You are in dialogue. The earth shifts to become more whole. You breathe to become more present, both of you, planet and person, releasing, rearranging, and resting in between. You drift now above a darkness, so vast it swallows light. Below you lies the deep ocean floor, silent, cold, and seemingly still. But something ancient stirs in its shadows, a quiet birthplace hidden from sun and storm, where the planet writes its newest verses. This is the mid-ocean ridge. Not a ridge of stone like a mountain chain, though it spans the world longer than any on land. It is a seam, a molten scar where earth opens gently and creates, beneath miles of salt water. The crust splits apart, not violently, not with panic, but with calm and fire. On either side of the ridge, tectonic plates drift away, millimeter by millimeter, pulled by the slow breathing of the mantle, and into this widening gap, the earth pours itself. Molten rock, bright with heat, rises from the mantle and spills into the divide. It touches the cold of the deep sea and hardens instantly, turning fire into stone. A new crust is born. Land beneath the ocean, a planet rebuilding itself slowly, patiently, always. You float above this hidden creation. Imagine it. black waters swirling in silence. The sea above is near freezing. Sunlight cannot reach here, and yet from the Earth's body, warmth ascends. New land emerges inch by inch, breath by breath. The mid-ocean ridge is not a line, it is a vast spine running across the ocean floor. The mid-Atlantic ridge alone stretches for over 10,000 miles. It separates continents, carves valleys into the seafloor, and reshapes oceans. You can feel the pulse of it now. Each time new rock emerges, it pushes the plates further apart. The Atlantic Ocean widens, ever so slightly, every year. The Pacific shifts. The seafloor grows older as it moves away from the ridge, the newborn crust carried outward, like pages turned slowly in a geologic book. The story is endless. The ink is fire, the paper is time. Breathe, feel the water above and the fire below. Between them creation happens in silence. The ocean floor does not roar. It hums, it sings softly in basalt and pillow lava, in cooling minerals and drifting sediment. And within this dark cathedral, life blooms. At the ridge, cracks form hydrothermal vents, like chimneys of heat. Superheated water rich with minerals escapes into the ocean. Around them, in this utter blackness, entire ecosystems thrive. Tube worms, microbes, strange fish with glowing skin, creatures who have never seen sunlight, yet live on heat. This is life not powered by the sun, but by the Earth's core, by chemistry, by deep nourishment. They do not photosynthesize, they chemosynthesize. They feast on minerals, on heat, on hydrogen sulfide, on invisible gifts from below. It is a different kind of Eden, and you, floating above, feel the wonder of it. The ridge does not rise in drama, but it is the planet's longest, most constant act of growth. Without it, the crust would not renew, the oceans would not shift, the map would not change, and though it is far from sight, its impact surrounds you. The very land beneath your feet once was born of such ridges, cooled lava, hardened mantle, carried, shaped, eroded, and built upon but born from heat. Even the continents you know today were once stitched together and torn apart by these underwater weavings. The earth does not forget how to create. Even in cold, even in dark, it continues. You may not feel the spreading, you may never see the glow, but the ridge keeps breathing. Molten thoughts rise into black waters. They become stone, then soil, then story. Even the magnetic field of the earth is written into this crust. As molten rock cools at the ridge, minerals within align with the magnetic field of the planet at that time, like tiny compass needles frozen in place. And so as the plates spread outward, the crust carries those frozen signatures. A striped record of Earth's shifting poles, evidence of reversals, of deep time etched into ocean stone. The ocean floor is not just new, it is memory. Let yourself rest in that knowing. Let the motion beneath you comfort rather than startle. The ridge does not rush, it writes in steady lines, poetry written in lava, cooled into shape by the sea. Even your breath seems to match its rhythm now. You inhale and the earth expands, you exhale and new crust forms. You drift in sync with this process of renewal. It is not only the earth that grows from pressure and heat, so do you. There are ridges inside you, two invisible places where something old makes room for something new. Not all change happens in the daylight. Some of your most important transformations occur in darkness, with warmth rising from deep within. Even now, as you rest, you are changing. Just like the sea floor pulled open gently, shaped by forces beneath thought, healed by the fire of becoming, and always, always in motion. Let your thoughts dissolve into the deep now. Let yourself float above this ridge, this seam, this cradle of silent birth. There is no urgency here. Only unfolding. There is no chaos. Only rhythm. There is no end. Only beginning, again and again. You are still, wrapped in quiet, wrapped in thought, and a question comes soft as fog, delicate as dust upon stone. What if it all just stopped? No plates drifting, no mantle flowing, no volcanoes whispering from the deep, no crust pulling apart or folding together, no movement at all. What would the Earth become? Let yourself imagine it. Float now, not above a shifting world, but one gone still, a planet paused, held breathlessly in its last position. The crust no longer shifts, the mantle no longer flows, the core cools quietly, without protest, and the Earth, our restless, molten-hearted Earth, falls silent. At first there might be peace. No earthquakes, no eruptions, mountains stay where they are, oceans cease their widening, ridges sleep. The planet becomes a sculpture, but in time that stillness becomes strange, because movement is not chaos, it is life, and without it, Earth would lose something deeper than motion. It would lose its breath. The plates, locked in position, would begin to cool, not just on the surface, but from within. The molten rivers of the mantle, no longer stirred by convection, would thicken, harden, like blood no longer pumped through veins. The outer crust, no longer recycled by subduction or renewed by spreading ridges, would grow old, fragile, thin in some places, over-thickened in others. It would become brittle. Cracks that once healed through pressure and time would remain as scars. No new land would form. No mountain would rise to catch the stars. No ocean would widen to invite the sky. The Earth's geology, its great, slow exhale, would end, and deep within, at the planet's core, something colder stirs. The iron heart, no longer churning, begins to solidify. The currents that once danced in the outer core, the ones that created our magnetic field, fall silent, and with them the magnetic shield begins to fade. No more auroras, no more invisible shield protecting life from solar wind. The sky may still shimmer, but it will be the shimmer of a world more vulnerable. Imagine a compass needle, once sure, now drifting. You float in this frozen dream, watching the heartbeat of the planet fade. With no tectonic recycling, carbon and other gases would stop being cycled between surface and mantle. Over millennia, Earth's atmosphere might shift, becoming stagnant, unbalanced. Volcanoes that once released pressure and gas would be sealed forever, trapped, unbreathing. Weather would change too subtly, then more sharply. The shape of continents, forever static, would alter ocean currents. No more rising chains to catch monsoon winds. No more shifting landmasses to stir the sea. The balance between ice and warmth, wind and rain, would erode into unpredictability. And under the crust, life that thrives on Earth's heat, the strange deep dwellers, the chemotrophs at hydrothermal vents, would lose their home. You may not feel it, but a world that doesn't move becomes a world that forgets how to live. Stillness, over time, becomes silence, and silence, if held too long, becomes absence. You float now in that stillness. No tremble beneath you, no slow pulse in the dark, just the frozen shell of a world once full of breath. It is beautiful in a way, like a museum kept in vacuum. But even beauty needs change to stay alive. This is a world where history has no future. You might touch a mountain knowing it will never rise another inch. You might walk a coastline, knowing the tide will never creep closer or slip farther away. There is a loneliness in that, because movement is not just motion, it is memory, it is promise. A still Earth would be one where stories stop being written. No new layers, no new stone, no new fossil formed beneath the waves. It would be a planet caught in a final pose, perfect in its preservation, but empty of becoming. Even you, lying still now, know the truth in your bones. Stillness must breathe, it must lead to rest, and then to motion again. Without breath, rest becomes forever, and forever without movement is not peace. It is pause without return. Let yourself drift through this imagined quiet, this crystal shell of a world, and feel the weight of what movement means, not just to Earth, but to you. Your breath, your heartbeat, your thoughts. They are small tectonic shifts, little crustal plates of memory and feeling, rearranging with every dream, every night. You are not meant to freeze, nor is the Earth. You move together slowly, gently, with purpose unseen, and in that there is life. So let this imagined stillness remind you of motion's grace. Let it make you grateful for the shift beneath your bed, for the soft pressure rising in the crust, for the magma still composing verses far below. Let it guide you back toward breath. You lie in stillness, but this stillness is different, not peaceful, not cradling. It is stillness without change, stillness without breath. You open your senses to a world that no longer moves. There are no volcanoes now, no mountains growing, no valleys forming, no plates pressing into one another with ancient rhythm. The earth is unchanged and unmoving, and something in that makes the silence feel hollow. At first glance, it appears gentle, serene. No earthquakes disturb the cities, no ash falls from the sky, no molten fire rises from the deep. But stay a while in this quiet. Listen deeper. There is no renewal here without tectonics. The volcanoes sleep forever, their deep reservoirs of heat and mineral wealth sealed. There are no eruptions to enrich the soil, no flows of basalt to seed new lands, no geysers to steam new breath into the air. The very lungs of the earth have fallen quiet. And what happens when the earth stops exhaling? The soil grows tired. Volcanoes are not merely fire, they are farmers. When they erupt, they do not only destroy, they give. They scatter mineral-rich ash across the land, replenishing nutrients in the ground, restoring balance where rain and time have washed it away. The world's most fertile regions often live near tectonic edges, where destruction and creation walk together. Without this cycle, the soil is never renewed, the fields fade, the crops weaken, the forests struggle. Plants that once grew thick and tall now seem hesitant, as if reaching into weary ground. And you lie in this untouched world. Everything looks the same as it did the day before, and the day before that, but something is missing beneath the surface. The planet no longer sheds its skin, it no longer dreams in magma, it no longer dares to rise. And so life here begins to stall. You might walk through a forest where trees still stand, but something about their stillness feels uneasy, like a breath held too long. Their roots stretch through exhausted soil, reaching for minerals that never come. Without volcanic recycling, nutrients are not replaced. Without tectonic uplift, eroded lands are not refreshed. Without subduction, carbon is not cycled from crust to air and back again. Even the atmosphere feels thinner, not gone but weary. There is no danger in this world, but there is no vibrancy either, like a garden left untouched, not tended, not watered, just suspended. Beautiful, but fading. You are surrounded by the illusion of peace. But real peace, you now realize, includes struggle. It includes renewal. It includes motion. Even the forests once depended on upheaval. Rivers carved by shifting plates brought nutrients to the plains. Ash fed the trees. Minerals carried by mountain melt nourished the roots of everything green. And without this deep motion, even the most thriving ecosystems begin to quiet. They do not die, they diminish, slowly, and you lying there feel it, not as fear, but as grief. Grief for a world that chose safety over growth, that traded renewal for stillness, that locked its fire away. There are no more hot springs now, no more geysers singing from the earth's breath, no more geothermal warmth rising to meet the chill of night. Even the creatures that once lived in these volcanic margins begin to vanish. No new islands rise from the sea, no coral reefs form around fresh stone, no birds find sanctuary on young jagged cliffs. Even life in the deepest oceans begins to flicker. No more hydrothermal vents, no more chemosynthetic marvels. The ridges have gone quiet, and with them the spark that once fed worlds without sun. And now you see it clearly. Without upheaval, the world becomes preserved. But life was never meant to be preserved. It was meant to pulse, to grow, to fall and rise again. Even the ancient forests knew this. Even the volcano knew this. Destruction was never the opposite of life. It was part of the rhythm. You turn slowly, in your resting place, and for a moment you wish the earth would tremble again. not in fear but in promise, in potential, in reminder, that what shakes us also remakes us, that what breaks open the crust also feeds the roots. Even you, your soul, your thoughts need tremors, moments that press and crack and reform. Even now, you can feel that yearning deep within. You miss the sound of magma beneath your feet. You miss the whisper of ridges rising from the sea. You miss the ache of becoming, and in that ache is life. You sleep on stone, but it is not still. Beneath your back, beyond blankets, beyond concrete, beyond the brittle crust, something ancient presses upward, and it cannot escape. In a world where tectonic plates no longer drift, volcanoes no longer breathe, subduction has ceased, mantle currents have slowed, and crusts once fractured with purpose are now locked tight. You lie on a sealed world, and heat remembers. The planet still generates it quietly, relentlessly in its depths, from the decay of radioactive elements, from the compression of ancient formation, from the smoldering breath of a once molten core. This heat has nowhere to go now. It builds, gently, at first like steam behind a door, but doors are meant to open, and the Earth's skin, once pliable, is no longer a door, it is a vault. You sleep, curled atop a pressurized planet, and beneath you the crust swells. The volcanoes, long silent, feel it first. They are not dead, only held. Their chambers fill like lungs with no exhale. The magma churns, the pressure climbs, gases dissolve into molten rock, becoming restless, volatile. But the surface does not yield. Without plate movement, without rifts, faults, or fractures, there are no escape routes, no release valves. The tension cannot slip sideways, the heat cannot rise gently. It stays, like breath held too long, and you are lying on its chest. The planet you rest upon is no longer breathing out. It is swelling inward. You may not hear it yet, but the crust does. It creaks, slowly, softly, the sound of minerals remembering how to fracture. Tiny shifts, hairline cracks, invisible quivers. This is not the groan of active tectonics. It is the ache of resistance. A crust forced to contain what it was never meant to contain. You sleep. The clock beneath you ticks, not in seconds, but in pressure. 1 Pascal more, then another, then another. Deep within, the earth begins to sweat. Its heat, once diffused across spreading ridges and volcanic vents, now concentrates. Whole regions of the mantle simmer beneath plates that cannot yield. The heat searches, clawing upward like roots through stone, but the stone does not budge. Imagine a balloon stretched too tight, a drum skin beneath fire, a heart sealed with no vein. Something must give, perhaps not tonight, perhaps not for centuries, but when it does, the silence will shatter. Volcanoes do not forget how to erupt, they only wait, and when enough gas builds, when enough magma churns, when the pressure surpasses the crust's strength, they will break free, not with the slow grace of tectonic drift, but with violence, with urgency, with release long denied. Supereruptions, rare, cataclysmic. In a mobile Earth, such events are softened, spread across boundaries, diluted by shifting plates, absorbed into the planet's breath. But here in stillness, there is no such balance. The clock ticks toward an explosion, and it is not only volcanoes. It is fault zones that cannot flex. It is mountain roots that still hold pressure from collisions, long past. It is gases beneath the crust, expanding with nowhere to go. You dream on a landscape that looks calm, but carries tension in every stone. Even you can feel it now, that hum, that whisper, that tremor, not of movement, but of restraint. The earth was never built to hold its breath, and yet here it is, chest tight, crust sealed, heat rising. Beneath your sleep is a countdown, a slow accumulation, a whispered urgency, not of fear, but of physics. Energy must move, pressure must release, stone must break. This is not punishment, It is law, and the earth, no matter how still we ask it to be, will one day obey its own design. Still, tonight is quiet. You are safe for now, in the pause before the strike. But the peace is not true peace. It is a mask, and beneath that mask, the magma watches. Even now, deep below, reservoirs pulse with growing force, lava thickens, crystals dissolve, gases hiss against stone. The system prepares not with malice, but with inevitability. You drift closer to the ticking. You lie on it, wrapped in time, warmed by pressure, unaware of the mathematics beneath. This is not meant to frighten. It is meant to awaken, not in panic, but in understanding. That motion was never danger, it was release. And now in its absence, the earth becomes a clenched fist, a sealed furnace. A poet denied their pen. Let yourself feel the lesson here. Even in stillness, there is pressure. Even in silence, there is sound waiting. Even in sleep, the stone beneath you dreams of eruption. The air feels heavier tonight, not with fear, but with warmth. A subtle weight that wraps around you as you drift, soft, like a blanket drawn too close. Unseen but deeply felt, you float through it, and beneath you the earth no longer stirs. The crust has stilled, the plates have paused, and something delicate begins to shift above, not in stone but in sky. For millions of years, Earth's breath was tied to movement. Tectonic plates didn't just shape continents, they carried carbon deep into the planet's body. Subduction zones, those deep silent trenches, swallowed ancient ocean floors layered with shells, bones, and buried carbon, locked away. This carbon cooled the sky. It balanced the air. It gave the planet rhythm. Exhale through volcanoes, inhale through burial, a cycle as old as oceans. But now, that cycle has ended. With the crust frozen in place, subduction has stopped. The conveyor belt of carbon has broken, and though volcanoes are quiet, no longer exhaling carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the burial has halted too. There is no deep sink, no return path. The earth no longer breathes, and slowly the air remembers what was left behind. Greenhouse gases remain, carbon dioxide lingers, methane endures. The slow processes that once pulled them from the sky, rock weathering, seafloor burial, tectonic drag no longer function, and so the sky warms. Not all at once, not in panic, but in accumulation, a soft rising fever. You can feel it in the night air, a hush too thick, a breeze too warm. The world holds its warmth longer now, like a body with no breath to release it. This warmth is not fire, it is fog, it is weight, it is time thickening in the atmosphere. You drift through it, and as you do, you remember how balance was once kept. Rain fell upon mountains, sharp new ranges thrown skyward by colliding plates. Those mountains weathered, breaking down rock that pulled carbon from the air and locked it into stone. Rivers carried those minerals to the sea. Life absorbed them. Shells formed, seafloors thickened with carbon-laced sediments, and the plates, ever moving, carried them down again into fire, into transformation, into silence. That was the long breath of Earth. Now the mountains no longer rise. Rain falls on old bones of land. There is less rock to break, less carbon to pull. The rivers carry less. The oceans absorb more. But even they grow tired. And so the sky holds onto its breath. It thickens. The nights grow warmer. The poles begin to melt. Glaciers, once fed by tectonic lift and shaped by pressure, recede into memory. Even the seasons feel softer, less sure of themselves. The balance is gone, not broken in violence, but simply unwound. The earth without movement forgets how to regulate its skin. You float in this warmth now, not uncomfortably, not yet, but you feel the difference. The clarity of old air has dulled. The cool kiss of altitude feels like a faded note. The stars still shine, but there's a haze, a shimmer, not of wonder, but of weight. This is not punishment. It is consequence. A slow shift in the rules when motion is removed from the game. You lie suspended in a world that still turns, still spins, still dreams, but no longer circulates its breath. Even the trees struggle now. They take in what they can, but the air holds more than they can swallow. Forests grow denser, greener in places, but with growth comes demand for minerals, for nutrients, for balance the land no longer offers. Some plants thrive, others vanish. The climate changes not with sudden storms, but with long sighs of heat. You float through this slow unfolding. You feel its warmth on your skin. It is not fire, it is inertia. The earth, once self-correcting, has lost its rhythm, and in this stillness, even time feels slower. The pace of change has dulled, but the consequences echo louder. Without tectonics, Earth becomes a body with no pulse. It appears alive, it appears whole, but its breath is held, and the air knows. You drift higher now, carried by thermals that last longer than they should. You feel how heat rises, but does not release. How clouds form but linger too long. This is not a storm, it is a memory stretched too far. You are part of this now, just as your lungs exhale, the earth once did, and without that exhale, the world carries its warmth like a secret. But secrets grow heavier when not shared, and so as you close your eyes, wrapped in this atmosphere of change, you wonder what other systems, what other balances, wait to unravel when movement ends. The silence has lasted so long, you almost forget it was not always this way. You lie still. The crust beneath you is sealed. The sky is warm and waiting. The mantle below is full of whispers, and then a pulse. Small, not violent, not loud, just a shift. A memory deep in the stone. The earth remembers. It starts not with a quake, but with a question and ache inside the mantle where the heat has been waiting. Waiting for the crust to forgive, waiting for the stillness to soften, and slowly it does. The pressure has built for ages, but pressure is not only destruction, it is potential. Now, cracks begin to form, tiny at first, hairline fractures beneath old faults, not enough to be noticed, just enough to let heat pass through. The breath of earth returns cautious, but steady, and you, sleeping above, begin to sway. It is not dizzying, it is not sharp, it is the gentle motion of a body remembering how to move. The crust no longer resists completely, it yields in places. Its sighs open in old seams, subtle convection stirs below, magma nudges upward, curious. The silence that once gripped the planet begins to lift. You feel it in your spine, not fear but resonance. As if your bones are tuning themselves to a deeper frequency. You are not being shaken, you are being sung to, because motion is not just energy, it is expression, and the earth long muted, finds its voice again. In the ocean basins the ridges twitch, not split, not yet, but something stirs, like fingers learning to write again. On the continents, old faults relax their grip, stone relearns how to yield. Mountains do not rise tonight, but they remember how they did, and deep in the core, where iron churns in the dark, the swirl begins once more, liquid motion, molten memory. A field reborn, the magnetic shield hums faintly, just a whisper, just enough to remind the stars that the earth still spins with purpose. And you, lying in this moment of return, feel your own breath deepen. Stillness was not death. It was waiting. It was a pause. It was the note before the music begins again. Now the music returns. Slow, subtle rhythms. Movements too small to see, but too old to stop. A glacier carves in a long frozen valley. A geyser stutters to life, clearing its throat with steam. A vent opens on the seafloor. A single breath of heat into the cold. It is beginning. Motion returns not in eruption, but in exhale. And as it does, so do you. You stretch in your sleep, the way stone stretches after ages of pressure. You are Earth's witness, its passenger, its echo. The warming air above begins to shift again, recalibrating to this ancient dance. Greenhouse gases, once trapped, begin to cycle. Mountains, even in micro gestures, invite rain to cut them down. The world sighs, and with that sigh comes renewal. You may not see new ridges form yet. You may not feel continents drift, but the pattern is returning. The breath is returning. It is not the same as it once was. It never is. Motion does not repeat. It evolves. And now, with every heartbeat of magma below, the earth leans toward balance, not quickly, not fully, but forward. And you awaken in rhythm with it, gently swaying on stone. You feel the promise in the motion, not of perfection, but of continuity. This was never about resetting the world. It was about remembering how to be alive. And life, you now understand, is movement in stillness, breath in stone, heat in silence. It is the quiet commitment to change. You sit up in your dreaming. You look out across a world not yet remade, but reawakening. Mountains do not rise, but they listen. Valleys do not deepen, but they welcome rain. The crust does not split, but it exhales, and you rise with it, slowly, softly, like land returning from the sea. You lie in quiet now. The journey beneath has ended for now, but its motion has not, because beneath your ribs, beneath your breath, there is still tectonic drift. You are not made of stone, but you are made of earth, and like earth, you move, your cells shift, break, renew. Your mind reshapes itself each night, not loudly, but in small tectonic thoughts, tiny beliefs worn smooth by time, old memories subducted beneath new ones, emotions rising like magma, cooling into form. You are not a static being. You are a living crust of memory and feeling. You heal, you fracture, you drift. You build new ridges inside your bones. Just as Earth's plates press together, you too learn through pressure. The moments that shape you, they are not always gentle, but they push. And from that push comes new landscape, a stronger mind, a softer heart, a steadier core. You felt the earthquakes within those sudden jolts of grief, of change. You've weathered them. You've rebuilt, and like Earth, you never stop becoming. You think you're lying still, but even now your blood flows like lava through soft tunnels. Your lungs rise like mountains, fall like valleys. Your skin renews, like sediment. Your breath finds rhythm with the crust beneath you. You are not separate from the world. You are its echo. Every bone in you carries the whisper of calcium once floating in ancient seas. Every heartbeat is powered by iron, forged in stellar cores, buried in earth, carried through food, through soil, through the slow dance of time. And your spirit, it moves like continents slowly, sometimes imperceptibly, but always forward. Even in sleep, you change. The thoughts you held yesterday shift softly in the dark, wounds sealed with scar, questions made smoother by dreaming. You are your own tectonic story, so let go now. Let yourself feel what the earth feels when it exhales, not relief, but renewal. You are not broken for shifting. You are not flawed for growing. You are not wrong for changing shape. The earth never apologizes for its mountains, and neither should you. Let the past lie like old ocean floor. Let the present rise, new and warm. Let the future drift slowly into view, not planned but guided by motion deep within. You are not still. Even here, in silence, you move. Thoughts spiral, cells hum. The soul wanders, not lost, just expanding. You are becoming, like a ridge beneath the sea, like a forest rising from ash, like a core that refuses to cool. You do not need to be loud. You do not need to be fast. You only need to move, and you are. Even now.